Welcome. We are going to learn how to solve some absolute value equations. All right, before we get going though, let's make sure you remember what an absolute value is. So absolute value, those are those two vertical lines around the -3 here. The textbook definition is how far or the distance a number is away from zero. So right here, -3, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. Here's -3. -3 is 3 away from 0, so the absolute value of -3 is 3. I'll tell you a little secret. When I was a kid, I'm sure some teacher told me about the distance away from 0. I just remembered if it was negative, you make it positive. So what happens if it's already positive? What's the absolute value of 15? Why, it's just going to be 15. So you take the absolute value of a negative, makes it positive. If absolute value of positive, you keep it positive. So this one, I was just being kind of funny here. It's just going to be 124.6. Absolute value turns that negative into a positive. Let's solve some equations. All right, let's look at this first one. Absolute value of x equals 6. So you're thinking on your number line, and you are thinking to yourself, I need some number that is going to be 6 away from 0. And you know what works? Works. But wait a second. If you can go 6 to the right, you also could go 6 to the left. Ooh, not as pretty. And sure enough, this equation has two answers. Both of those work. If you plug them in, absolute value of 6 would be 6, but the absolute value of -6 would also equal 6. I'm going to pause for about 5 seconds right now and see if you can get this one on your own. Absolute value of x equals 13. I'm looking for two answers. All right, it's going to be 13 or -13. Hopefully that's what you got. Let's get it a little bit more interesting here. How about something like absolute value of x minus 2 equals 7. So you're now thinking to yourself, maybe not the distance from 0, but how could I make x minus 2 equal to 7? And if you're like me and you're just looking inside the absolute value and you think, how could I make x minus 2 equal to 7? Well, we can solve this. This isn't too bad. You might be able to do it in your head. Add 2, x equals 9. Let's plug that in. Does that make sense? 9 minus 2, that's 7. But wait a second. We said that it's going to have two answers. It's because x minus 2 could also equal -7, right? So let's solve this one. Plus 2 plus 2, x equals -5. Does that really work? Let's plug that in and see what happens. Check our work here. -5 minus 2. Does that equal 7? Well, we get absolute value of -7 here. And is the absolute value of -7 equal to 7? It is. So the key here is to say we want to set the thing inside the absolute value equal to the positive value, but also the negative value. Let's go dual here and see if you can solve this next one on your own. Pause the video, try it out, see if you can get it. Alrighty, back? Did you get that x plus 4 could be 5? And if you solve this one, you should have got 1 is your answer. And did you get that x plus 4 also equals -5? Oh, this problem's running into me here. -4 minus 4. And we get that x equals -9. Not so bad, right? All right. Two more things that can happen. One, I'll go back to single page view here. One is, this looks scary. What would make the absolute value of 2x minus 3 equal to 7? Well, let's do the same thing we've been doing. Let's take our positive case, but also that part inside the absolute value could equal -7. And if you solve these two, add 3. A little bit more work to do here. 2x equals 10. Might be able to do this part in your head. X could be 5. Or we're going to do kind of the same steps over here that we just did, just with the negative case. 2x equals -4. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. And once again, we have two answers. -2 and 5, you plug those in. They will both give you, after you take the absolute value, they'll both equal 7. All right, I'm going to skip this one. But you can pause it here if you want to try this one out. And I want to show you one more thing that could happen. What happens if your absolute value equals negative? Well, let's try plugging something in. What if we plug in 1? Would that equal -1? No, that's not right. How about if we plug in -1? That must do it. No, because that would be +1. No, that's not right either. It turns out when your absolute value equals a negative, there is no solution. So you can just write no, or you can say no solution. This one's a little fancier over here. That absolute value is equaling -8. Can we ever have an absolute value equal a negative? No! So there's actually no answer to these. And we'll do more practice on your own, but this is the basics of how you solve absolute value equations. Hope that helped.